Cherwink, welcome back to the Underground Society podcast. Nik is a life coach, artist coach, branding expert. What else can we add to that list?
I'm Nik Cherwink. I'm the guy that has all the answers. There's not a lot of people that have been an artist since they were 10 years old, that worked in the music industry for 13 years, that helped build a music production company, that have already coached over 100 artists, like one-on-one. The universe is literally putting people in front of me, telling me like to go out into the jungle, jump off the cliff. And so I did. And the minute I did that, I was liberated. I was free.
How important is that?
This is the million-dollar question. I didn't really grow up with a father to explore certain things, to learn certain things, to discover certain things about myself. I went through a breakup last year.
That sounds fun.
Oh, big time. I don't want to go in that dark-ass, scary cave. I was talking to her on the phone one day, and she just bitch slapped me in the face.
I've heard great things.
It doesn't mean it doesn't suck balls, but it really does create like a psychedelic effect. I like this idea that we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Which means?
Not human beings having a spiritual experience.
Which means?
I don't know.
Nik Cherwink, welcome back to the Underground Society podcast. How are you?
I'm good, man. Very excited to be back.
Yeah, we were just talking a little before this. You were episode 8, and I don't even really necessarily remember what episode we're on right now. What episode this is, I'll let you know. But we are in season 3 already, so it's been a few years since we've last talked on the podcast.
It's wild, man. You've been putting in the work. You've been super, super consistent. And, I see so many people that start podcasts and then, they get to like episode 5 or 6 and it's like, oh, this is too much work.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you've powered through, man. It's pretty incredible.
Yeah. It's been a fun ride. I think what really has pushed me and helped me get here is just I truly enjoy doing it. Before we get into all of this, I wanted to give you a little introduction because I think a lot of people that were listening to our original episode may be different listeners now. So Nik is a life coach, artist coach, branding expert. What else can we add to that list? I know you do quite a few things within the music industry, within coaching, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, that's it. That's a good place. I was doing a little CrossFit coaching as well recently. That was more just for fun, but I'm an artist coach, man. I am a life coach that is dedicating to helping artists live their best life, create their best work, and crush their goals. That's really what I'm all about.
You kind of went down a different path. You were an artist coach. You started as an artist coach, and you started at Icon Collective, and you were managing some artists and stuff like that. You started in the music industry, and then kind of what we're going to be talking about today is you kind of switched directions with your coaching. You kind of went into more men's health, relationship type stuff, and I guess I just wanted to start with the question of like, what called you to make that transition? What brought you out of the familiarity of the music industry that you've known for so long into some new territory of coaching, more primarily guys?
Yeah. Well, I love talking about the hero's journey, which anybody that's familiar with Joseph Campbell, the hero's journey is basically the underlying subplot of every movie that Hollywood has ever made about a hero. Every great story, every great legend is about, a hero leaving their known world and having some sort of calling to go out into the jungle, into the forest, into the adventure, and all the crazy stuff that happens, right? And then there's the big demon or the dragon that needs to be slayed, and then there's the return home. That's the very basic idea of the hero's journey. And for myself, I think that I've been really reflecting on my journey a lot lately because it has taken some detours. Just to give some context, I think I had the calling to be a life coach, and it took me it was probably 4 or 5 years where I heard that voice in the back of my head that was like, hey, there's something out here for you to explore. There's a service for you to provide. There's an adventure for you to go on. You should go and do it. And I refused that calling for a good 4 or 5 years before I actually took action on it. And when I finally did, it was when I was working at Icon Collective. I was the industry advisor there. And I was also teaching a class called The Art of Flow, which is where I learned about the hero's journey. And I used to teach about this idea. So eventually I had students coming up to me saying, hey, Nik, I want you to mentor me, not on the music production side of things, but on the life side of things. And that was when I finally was like, okay, the universe is literally putting people in front of me, telling me like, it's your time.
Just step into it. Yeah.
Step in it, like pull the trigger, like jump off the cliff, go for it. And so I did, for about 2 years, I was just doing it part-time while I was still there. But then the last, over 3.5 years now, I've been just full-time coaching. And, it's interesting, I think, to compare this to like the artist journey. It's like choosing your genre. Right?
Yeah.
You want to be an artist, but then you're going to get out there in the world. Like, all right, well, how are you going to present yourself to the world?
Mm-hmm.
And I've kind of dabbled in different genres, right? When I first came out, I didn't really know what I was making. And then I kind of zeroed in and just owned this artist niche, because it just so happened that 90% of people I know are artists. Like, I lived in the music industry. I worked at Icon. It was like everybody that was around me were artists. So I was like, well, let me just own this thing. Like, this is what's in front of me. And so I started kind of branding myself that way, calling myself an artist coach. Where the transition happened was I just naturally usually attracted, I'd say, about 90% male clients. It's usually guys that have come to me. Right. I've coached a lot of women as well, really amazing, badass women too. But I'd say, probably 80 or 90% are usually guys. I started going on my own journey, just on my personal path of what we would call men's work, really just exploring masculinity, exploring what it means and looks like to be a man. I mean, I think that we sort of, myself, I didn't really grow up with a father that was there, that was guiding me and showing me how to navigate being a man. And I think that's a very common story for our generation. A lot of, men have grown up without fathers just in general, or very busy fathers that were just gone working all the time, or just, men that aren't necessarily super connected, and just showing us this path. So as I started walking down that path and learning a lot about it, I was just really, having a lot of great results, really inspired by it, and naturally found myself kind of coaching the artists that were coming to me, would come to me wanting to like make better music or level up in their career. And the next thing you know, we're like super deep talking about their relationship with their father and like their relationship with their partner.
That's kind of what happened with us.
Yeah. We got into some deep stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of changed genres for a moment. I was making progressive house, and I was like, well, I kind of like this. It's kind of like this trap shit. Let me go over here and make some trap for a while. And so this last year was me going more in that direction.
Okay.
But as I got further down that path, it never really clicked. It never really felt like home. And I think I needed to go down that path to explore certain things, to learn certain things, to discover certain things about myself. And then, it was just kind of recently, to be honest, I got to the point where I was actually really burnt out, and I was like, man, I don't even think I want to coach anymore. I got to a point where I had to just take care of myself, and just holding space and helping so many other people. I just didn't feel like I was in a position to do that. I had my own just personal stuff that I was going through that I needed to focus on. So I stopped taking on clients for a while. I almost quit, to be honest. I was like, oh, I think I'm done. I think I'm good. And then the calling just came back really powerfully and really strongly. And it just hit me. It was like, no, man, like this is, come back to where it all started. This is still the space for you to be in. These are the people that better than anybody, and the people that you love, and the people that you're here to serve. Like, it was like a calling from, a higher power, a higher dimension, that I just got reconnected to. And it was cool, because as soon as I got reconnected to it, it was like, oh, boom. I signed like 5 clients in a week. It was just like, oh yeah, bro, like this is where you're supposed to be. Like, it's like you start, it's like, I've been trying to make trap for the last year, and like nobody would sign my shit. And then I made one progressive house song, put it out, and it like blew up, it's like that. That would be the comparison, I'd say.
Okay. Crazy. No, I'm just kidding. So a couple of things throughout that process that I wanted to kind of highlight, I guess, is not only the switch back and forth between the two different clienteles, if you will, but also, we don't have to get into this extensively, but you went through a breakup and you also moved from San Diego to Austin. So you kind of had 2 major life changes. Did either of those things have anything to do with like pushing you in one direction or the other?
Oh, big time. Yeah, okay. That was, because a lot of that was my personal journey that I was going through. I went through a breakup in, last January, and, I decided to move to Austin. I moved from San Diego to Austin. This is where all my coach friends are. There's a huge coaching community out here. A lot of people that were in this sort of men's workspace. There's a big men's group out here that I was a part of as well. So I decided to come out, and I love it. Austin is incredible.
I've heard great things.
It's so cool. And I already had a good network. So like, as soon as I showed up, I already had a bunch of friends. And then it's like, there's such a culture of community here where it's very easy to meet people. It's very easy to make new friends. And just as soon as I got here, my network expanded, exponentially, and it's been a lot of fun. And however, when I first got here, I was just, I'd gone through a breakup, and I just left. I just dipped out, started having a bunch of fun, going out all the time, keeping myself very, very busy. And after a couple months of that, it kind of caught up to me. And that's when I was really just going through my own stuff. Like there was some grieving that I had to do. There was some emotional processing I had to go through. Like you can't just run away from your problems. And my friend, shout out Freddie Lane, my friend Caitlin, amazing artist we've been building her brand at Colt. She's incredible. She's taken off right now, but she's like my life coach. We like life coach each other. She's my life coach. I
follow her on Instagram. Even some of the stuff that she posts and stuff, I'm like, she seems like a cool person.
She's a badass. Yeah. She's so cool. I was talking to her on the phone one day, and she just bitch slapped me in the face. And she was like, look, Nick, you can break up with your girlfriend. You can move to another state. You can even quit your job and change jobs, but you can't run away from yourself. And it hit me so hard. I was like, damn, like she's right. I can't, you can't run away from yourself. Like whatever the problems I was having in that relationship were, they followed me because they were my problems. They were my issues. So that's when I started going on a deeper intentional journey of like, I really got to like do some healing. I got to do some deeper, kind of personal growth and healing, and, just diving into my shit, started working with a therapist. And that was when I was like, all right, I don't really have space to take on any clients right now. I need to just focus on myself.
I was going to ask, what does that look like when you have work to do on yourself? How challenging does it make helping others work on themselves?
Well, usually,
does it get in the way at all, or is it help you?
This is the first time. This is the first time it ever did. It's like, that's the thing that I think everyone needs to realize about coaches is it's like coaches, therapists, whoever. It's like, dude, we are all human. Yeah. It's not like we're just perfect all the time and we live these perfect, happy lives. We're just happy all the time. It's like, no, nobody escapes from being human. Right. Like we all go through our shit. I think perhaps the difference with us is we are usually a bit more quicker to really dive into it. And, at least that's what I'm seeing with like a lot of my friends that are really great coaches. I'm like, oh, you guys aren't invincible at all, but you just own your shit way quicker and you dive into it, and you have the tools and you have the skills to go into it and lean into it to work through it, rather than running away from it or, numbing yourself, avoiding it. Like, I think so many of us just numb ourselves. It's like, let me just go, hook up with some people or go party or go play video games or go whatever. It's like all the things that we do to ignore some of the deeper issues that are there. So, then I needed to just put things on pause for a moment. But the real skill is, how do you still show up for others even when you have your own shit to go through too? And I think that's what great coaches are able to do. And to be honest, I've found myself, I think being in service of others is actually the best way to get out of your shit. Where it's like, I could be having the worst day in the world and be like, oh my God, like I'm so sad from this breakup, poor me, I'm so depressed, right? And then I see there's a call on my calendar for me to go coach somebody. The minute that call starts, it's not about me anymore. All my shit, I forget about everything. I'm 100% there in service of that person. So it's actually usually kind of helpful to have other people there sometimes.
Well, you told me a while back, and something that I've had to really think on, and something that I really had to I've gotten a lot better at, but is the analogy of like filling your cup. You have to fill your own cup, and you have to be able to overflow into others. Does that have anything to do with like your coaching and stuff, or is that is there a separation there when it is business?
I think it definitely, you can still, even if my cup is empty, I can still hold space for other people, usually. Right. But when my cup is full and it's overflowing,
you're going.
It's a whole different, it's a different kind of energy. I think, there definitely are a lot of things that we all need to just take care of ourselves, like first and foremost, and this is like, this is something I talk about a lot with people that have kids. You know, a lot of times you get kids and then it's like the kids become the priority. And it's like everybody, like they put everything to the back burner to take care of their kids. And it's like, that's a righteous train of thought. But then all of a sudden you're not taking care of your relationship anymore. And now mom and dad are fighting and now the kids are suffering because the relationship is suffering. Before you can really put that relationship first, you have to put yourself first to show up the best for your partner.
Yeah.
Right. So we just forget that sometimes. Like we really do. And it's so almost counterintuitive because it almost seems like we're like being selfish, but being selfish isn't a bad thing. Like take care of yourself first, put your own oxygen mask on first. Like you can't really, you know, be there for your partner, be there for your kids if you're not taking care of yourself.
That's so funny that we're talking about this because my dad and my stepmom are kind of going through a similar situation right now with their relationship. And it is, my stepmom is having issues filling up her own cup and taking care of some of the trauma that she's experienced in her past. She's having troubles facing that, and it's causing not only the relationship with her kids. She's trying to put her kids first, and like she basically exactly what you just explained. She's doing exactly the opposite of that. So
and it doesn't work, man. It doesn't work. You know, and to be honest, I think I for so long had been able to put everybody else first as far as just like, you know, clients or business. And this was the first time in doing this for 5 years where I was like, you know what, like I gotta, and to be honest, I never stopped coaching.
Right.
And I never stopped coaching artists. I've still always had like even at least a couple people still on the calendar, but I just stopped taking more people on for a couple months because I realized I'm like, all right, I have been going, you know, too hard and too long without really just prioritizing myself. So I had to kind of put things on pause and take care of myself for a little bit.
Yeah.
And to be honest, actually, it wasn't even taking care of myself. This was the huge breakthrough. This was the massive breakthrough. There's this saying that we hear all the time, like it's okay to not be okay. Right. I've never actually allowed myself to be not okay. Right.
Right.
I'm Nik Cherwink. I'm the life coach. I'm the guy that has all the answers. I'm the, you know, collegiate all-star, all-American rugby athlete, captain of the team. It was like my identity, even, and I unpacked this with my therapist. Like I grew up in a house with a lot of chaos and fighting. My mom and my sisters just like, they fought all the time. And so at a very young age, I decided like, hey, I'm not going to be any trouble. I was like, I'm going to take care of myself. I'm not going to contribute to the drama. Yeah. I'm always going to make sure that I'm okay so that I don't add to the stress and the chaos of the house. And I remember like making that decision when I was like 6 years old or something, you know? And so I've always taken care of myself. I've always been hyper independent. I put myself through college. Like I've never, you know, leaned on anybody and I've always been okay up until this year. This was the first year I was like, it just like the universe forced me to go to this place because I needed to learn this lesson, you know, and I fully believe that, you know, all of the sort of, you know, challenge or struggle that I went through, 100%, it was a spiritual initiation, you know, what we would call sort of a dark night of the soul. But I had to go there to like learn these lessons. And that was the big breakthrough. It was like, it's okay to be not okay, dude. I had to throw my hands in the air. I waved my white flag and I said, I'm not good. I'm like really actually not good for it was like the first time in my life I ever admitted that, because I was always hanging on at least by a thread. I'm like, no, I got this. I'm like, I'm not okay, but I'll be okay. It was always the thing. And it was just this moment of total surrender. And really what that did, it allowed other people to support me. And that was the biggest breakthrough ever, because I've been the one supporting other people for so long. Or it was like, you know, it was actually really with my little sister. It was the one that kind of helped me have this breakthrough. She was like, you know, something came up in a text message and I was like, yeah, like I'll get back to you later. I'm kind of going through some stuff right now. And she was just like, dude, like I wish you would let me be there for you in the same way that you're there for me. And I was like, damn. And so I had a huge breakthrough, especially with my family, where they're like, yo, we got your back, dude. Like we got you, man. You know, and it was really cool. It was such a good experience. You know? And I think part of that is well, it's like some of the social conditioning as men too. It's like, no, we got to keep it together, have all the answers, always be strong. And it was the first time in my life I'm like, no, I'm going to just be a fucking mess right now and be totally held and supported and loved in all of it. And it was like, as soon as I just accepted it, I got to the other side. I was like, oh, wow, that was the lesson.
What's awesome is a lot of people don't, especially as men, we don't understand like the importance of like vulnerability or how to even be vulnerable. And it's like, we're almost like you said, like hidden behind this like facade or whatever. It's like, I'll take care of myself. Like that's what we were trained to do. But I think as soon as, like you said, as soon as you are open and honest with people and you are like, hey, I need help here, and you turn the tables, it's surprising. A lot of people are surprised by how much how many people they have around, especially someone like you, how many people you have around you that you've supported. So of course, like they love you for that. So they're going to support you right back. So it's kind of that word. It's almost like a karma situation too.
Totally. Yeah. I'm so blessed, man. I'm so blessed. I have a whole, army of people behind me that, have my back. And I really learned that like, I can lean on them. I don't always have to have it all together. I don't always have to have all the answers. And it's like, dude, we're all human, man. We're not robots. We're not machines. And so it was the next stage in my like growth and my evolution was to learn these lessons. And it's been interesting because I've always been a big, just a student of personal development. I've read all the books, I've done all the growth, and there's all this like upward growth of building myself. And this last, year, this last half a year, really over this last year, the growth was actually going down. It was like going into the depths of depression and darkness and being lost, and like going into the cave that you're fucking scared of. It's like, I don't want to go there. I've never wanted to go there. I've never gone there in my life. I've always been like, okay. I was like, I don't want to go in that dark ass scary cave. Right. But it's like I maxed out on like the surface level growth and the upward growth. And there was this different level of growth that I had to do and explore that was actually going down, going into the shadow, going into the cave, going into the darkness, and learning from there. Because now that I've been there, I can also serve people so much more powerfully. That's
what I was going to ask too. Has going to those depths and facing that fear and stuff, has that helped you with your coaching abilities and ability to help others?
100%, 100%. And the whole time that I was going through all my stuff, there was always a voice in my head that said, you're here for a reason, because there's something for you to learn, because there will then be something for you to teach and help others. Right. Like it's just, I just always had that in the back of my head. So it doesn't mean it doesn't suck balls going to those places. It sucks, but there was always just sort of this faint whisper and it helped me hold on to faith a little bit, just knowing like, hey, dude, there's a reason you're here. Like the universe was like forcing me to go explore this part of life that I was actually very unfamiliar with. But now that I've been there, I do feel very confident that I can help others when they are. Right? Otherwise, it's like, dude, if you haven't, we say in the coaching world, you can never take you can't take anyone as far as you've gone yourself. Yep. Right. So I'm like, I had to go there just to taste it, just to see it.
That's awesome. Yeah. Awesome. How are you feeling now that you've made these, kind of life changes and stuff, and, gone not only to it, learning different parts of coaching, but also through your breakup, also through your move. How are you feeling today after all that you've been through the last couple of years?
Dude, I feel amazing.
Sweet.
I feel great. I feel aligned and, in my power again. Talk to me like 2 months ago, I really wasn't there.
Yeah.
And like I said, I kind of had to go through all of that. But now, I definitely have gotten back in touch with myself. And a lot of that has been, I think, it really is like, for me, it's been a very spiritual experience. It's been very much like prioritizing my spirituality again. Right.
That's
just
awesome.
Like knowing like, hey, there's like a part of myself that is indestructible. You know what I mean? It's like, I like this idea that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, not human beings having a spiritual experience, but the human side is the hard side. The human side comes with a lot of pain and challenge and emotions and, frustration and ego and, mental health, all that. Like that is part of being human. But the spirit side, the spirit side is infinite. It's indestructible. So it's like just getting back in touch with that part of myself on a regular basis has been just reminding me of like who I really am. And I'm both. It's not like we're not one or the other,
right?
But we sometimes forget. We get so caught up in all the human shit that we also forget, like, no, you're also this like insanely powerful spiritual being with like infinite potential. And we just have to keep that balance.
What things do you do for yourself as far as practicing your spirituality?
Yeah. Well, the one that really helped me shift from, I think, when I was in this kind of darker place, and it really helped me, I think, get realigned, and more so specifically what it helped me was get clear on my vision again, to get clear on my mission again, as far as my direction. Coming back to my genre, knowing like, this is like, we all need a vision. We need to know where we're going in life. And if we don't have a clear vision of that, then waking up every day and doing stuff is very hard because you don't know like why you're doing it or where you're trying to go. Right? But the thing that helped me get that clarity again, which is a new practice for me, but I'm really excited to keep exploring it, is doing breath work. And so that's a really popular thing out here in Austin. There's a ton of breathwork facilitators and places to go where, I mean, basically,
I've
dude,
heard Austin
just
is a very like spiritual place. Like it makes sense for why that's there.
So, and people are surprised. They're like, "Oh, wow, you'd never think you'd find like in Austin, in Texas." It's like, dude, this is the capital of people that are in the spiritual transformational coaching space. Like this is where the industry is. This is where the people are. So there's a super cool energy out here.
So what does breathwork do for you then? What is that? What is that done for you?
Breathwork, man, it's wild. You basically like lay on the ground and just like hyperventilate. Like you're just like,
that sounds fun.
Yeah, it's kind of wild. I mean, there's like a scientific, chemical, neurological side to it of like what's actually happening. You're basically breathing, I guess more just sort of extensively. You're breathing kind of harder, faster. You're filling your body and your brain up with oxygen. More oxygen, than it's probably used to having. So, honestly, it creates like a psychedelic effect. Like you almost
is it similar to like Wim Hof? Is that similar to? Okay,
similar. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, breath work, I think is, and again, I'm a very rookie novice. I don't know too much about it. I think breath work is just sort of a generalized term for any type of breath work. There's a lot of different. There's like holotropic breath work. There's shamanic breath work. There's Wim Hof. There's a lot of different styles of it.
Right.
So I think the stuff I've been introduced to is more on the like they consider it like shamanic breath work.
Okay, which means.
But I don't know.
Don't know.
shaman
stuff. Okay. Okay, so
it's basically like a 3-part breath. You breathe into your stomach and then you breathe into your chest and then you breathe out. So it's like 3 parts, like stomach, chest,
that makes sense.
Release.
Yeah.
And you just kind of start off slow. Usually they'll play kind of like some cool trippy music. And then like throughout it, you'll like start going faster and faster. And then you'll at some point either like hold your breath in or you'll release it and hold it out. And it's just like, it literally, I've heard that it like releases DMT into your brain. I don't know if that's true, but I've heard somebody say that. So, but it really does create like a psychedelic effect. Like you're just having, cool. These sometimes just, visions. You're not seeing like the walls melt or anything, but, for me, I've had a couple of really powerful sessions where just sort of downloading these, ideas and just having the clarity and things like that. Like it's cool. It's like this interesting rabbit hole I'm just starting to explore. That's cool. But I'm like, if I do that once a week, like it's a pretty solid little system reset.
Yeah. Going back to the walking away from music and the music industry, did you have any like fears at all from maybe when you first thought about moving away from that direction? Is it a scary process for you, or is there any like fear of like, okay, like financially, because that's also a factor too, is financially you were confident in the income that you were making with the artist and you're taking this new direction and stuff. That's just being an example, but was there any fear for you at all moving in the new direction?
You mean like shifting away from music? Coaching?
Yeah.
No, because it's like the clients were always there. It's just like the right people were usually showing up, and I'd have. It's not like I always only coached artists. I would have, one of my big clients from last year was like a super successful real estate guy, right? And I was just sort of noticing, I think, what was I interested in teaching about and coaching on, and was naturally sort of attracting more people in that direction. So the pivot was sort of natural. It's like the clients were already sort of showing up asking for it. And so I was just sort of following that.
Got it.
So there wasn't necessarily fear. I've always had faith. Like I've had moments where it's like, I didn't make like any money this month. Like there was like those couple months where I didn't take on any new clients. And that was more the scary thing, where I was like, all right, I don't have a full-time job. Like I make my own money. I sign my own clients. I run my own business. So if I decide to stop signing clients, that means I stop getting a paycheck. But that was more the scary moment where I was like, hey, I also don't want to go just sign clients just because I have to. Right, because you need money. Like, I want to go take the gig. Like if, that you're playing at a club that is not a good look for you, right? Just because you're trying to get the paycheck. Or like, oh, I'm going to go remix this song just because they're going to pay me for it, even though it's going to be shitty for my brand, or it's a shitty song and I'm not actually inspired by it, you know? So I had to get really honest with myself of like, do I actually feel like I'm in a space to be in integrity in like going on this journey with people right now and taking their money and like having them invest in this process when I'm not really in alignment or really in like at 100%. So that was more the scary thing. But I also just always have a ton of faith.
Yeah.
I'm just like, yo, this is what my intuition is telling me to do. So I'm okay giving that up, and I'm okay just trusting that everything is going to work out, and I'll figure it out, because I always have.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, man, being out in the fully self-employed entrepreneurial world, like it comes
Scary.
with a lot of, it's a roller coaster, man. You know, sometimes you're like, oh dude, I just fucking crushed it this month, you know, and then you're like, oh, all my clients just wrapped up and I don't have any more money. You know, it's just like, so, you know, and that's not everybody's story. You know, that has been mine at certain times.
I would think it would be even more difficult in the specific industry that you're in. Cause I mean, you look at, for example, my mom's a hairdresser, right? People are going to continuously need, you know, their hair done on a consistent basis. Where with coaching, it's like, even I've gone through this experience with you. It's like you're only there for like a few months or like, you know, whatever it may be. And like you said, they wrap up at a certain point. It's not like clients are, I love this person, I'm going to keep going back for 50 years. So how does that kind of factor into like
ideally a coaching relationship shouldn't be forever. It shouldn't be, it's not like therapy where it's like, all right, we're going to spend the next 7 years talking about your childhood.
Yeah.
It's like, no, man, I'm like, yo, what goals do you want to accomplish? We're trying to get you to the next level. And can we get you there in 3 months? Can we get you there in 6 months? Like if we're doing it well, like we should be able to, right? So we shouldn't be here forever, right? And we're getting really clear on what's that next step? What's that next level? What are the breakthroughs we want to have? What are the results we want to create? And it should be probably a shorter term engagement. Right. So that is the nature of coaching usually. So
the turnover rate's like higher than,
we're, you know, we do need to be bringing people on pretty consistently. Now, the cool thing about that is there are 8 billion people in the world and there's a, you know, unlimited amount of clients. And as long as I have a internet connection and a laptop, I can run a business. It's very different. You know, I think, you know, when the pandemic started, it's like a lot of artists, like they lost their income, right? They lost their jobs. I didn't have any problem with I was already working from home for 6 months before the pandemic.
Your clientele probably took off maybe a little bit even more. Yeah, actually bought more time.
I had a great pandemic season. People were wanting help and support to kind of get through that chapter. So, you know, it's really just a matter of continuing to show up, right? And again, I like to draw this kind of to the artist journey, because I know there's probably a lot of artists listening to this that follow you, but just the consistency, right? Is if I keep showing up every day and I am, you know, it's about the process, right? Like you said, like you just keep showing up every day because you love the process, right? And you're not necessarily overly concerned with the results, or you're not at least stressing yourself out with the results. Like if I show up every day,
and it did not work. So it
didn't work.
It didn't work.
Yeah. you bring a certain kind of energy to the process when you're stressed out and attached to results. But when you show up to the process just because you love the process and because you are dedicated to service and you're dedicated to consistency, then you're going to see the results. So like 100%. You have to just trust that. And I think very similarly to an artist, you just need to show up every day and work. Show up every day, put in the work, create, right? Work on your branding, work on your marketing, work on building your audience, but just keep showing up and working. You know, for me, as you know, I think in the past, like, or this last year, it was like, it was hard. I had moments where I didn't want to show up and work because I was like going through my shit, you know, and I was like, you know, I was depressed or I was grieving a breakup or whatever it was. So it was like, how do you still pull yourself out of bed and like get the work done, even when you don't feel like it? You know, that's the hard part for anybody, at least that is, you know, on the entrepreneurial path. I think sometimes it's easier you can show up to your 9 to 5, even if you're in a shitty mood and you just have a job.
You just have to be there.
You just have to be there and kind of clock in and clock out. But
entrepreneurs, we have to get effective work done, quality over quantity.
It's a little different. Yeah, man, but I love it. I love the journey.
That's awesome. When you were in the middle of like deciding between, you know, what kind of route you were taking and, you know, you started to realize, hey, maybe this this new direction that I'm taking away from the music industry isn't, maybe not working out, or when you started having second guesses on that, what were some of the things that helped you rediscover like, okay, I need to come back to this, and this is really where my home is?
Yeah, that's a great question, because it was a series of events. It was like all of these little conversations, what I would call like universe nuggets, that were just kind of pointing at it, and like this little trail of breadcrumbs that was left, I think, that pulled me back into it. And a couple examples that I can remember was one, having a conversation. Actually, I had three conversations. I had one conversation with an artist manager who manages like a really big artist that everybody would know, that was talking about how, their artist was just struggling, and like they had, pretty much had like gotten canceled, and like had to like, cancel a tour or something like that. And they just lost the fucking $1 million. And it was like, his whole job was just basically being this guy's like therapist, and I was just like, damn, yeah, this is reminding me about how badly we need, how badly artists really need support. And it's not the manager's job, dude. Your manager's job is to make you money.
Yeah.
Your manager's job is to be out there helping you with your marketing campaigns, building up your business, right? And, some managers are equipped and having those, sort of therapy sessions.
That's who I want to be. That's the manager I want to be. So that's,
yeah. And it's great. I mean, that's what got me into being a coach. Was I was a manager, and I liked the therapy sessions more than I liked doing all the business side. I was like, I'm actually not really that good at the business side. I'm really good at these like late night inspirational talks, but I don't know how to run a fucking marketing campaign. So, I just had that conversation, caught up with a friend. I was just like, damn, all right. Like, there's still such a demand. There's still such a need for this out there. I had another conversation with, I had another like kind of similar conversation with another tour manager friend, a guy that used to run a label. And it was just a lot of these conversations around, artists' mental health. And I had a night where I went out here in Austin, I went to go see my boy Rinzin.
Oh,
incredible
great. Yeah, I love
techno
him.
DJ, icon grad. Mike, he's like one of the nicest, like just sweetest, like good people out there as well, like a really solid human. He played a show here in Austin, and I met up with him and got to go out with like a whole group of people to go see his show, which was super fun. And yeah, there was a girl that I met that night who was an artist, and she was like, "Oh, you're a life coach?" She's like, "I could use a life coach." And I was like, man, it kind of planted the seed. I'm like, I was like, the artists are like asking for this right now. I literally have somebody in front of me that's asking for this. And so it was just like a series of events. And then really it was like during a breathwork session where I just had this, like, it was like a lightning bolt, and just had this moment of clarity. I was like, oh yeah, dude, this is like, why am I walking away from this? Right.
Yeah.
Like, I was getting into this men's workspace, but to be honest, dude, there's 1,000 men's coaches just here in Austin. And I'm like, there's not a lot of artist coaches. There's not a lot of people that have, been an artist since they were 10 years old, that worked in the music industry for 13 years, that helped build a music production company, that have already coached over 100 artists, like one-on-one.
You have experience too.
There's not a lot of people that, like, it's a very interesting niche, and there's not a lot of people that have the same kind of experience that I have. So I'm like, why am I walking away from this? Like, this is my space. I need to stay here. Another piece of it as well, and I'll just do a little shameless plug right now, is when I was kind of considering getting out of coaching, I reconnected with my buddy Chris White. He was one of the first artists I ever managed, like, I don't know, 10, 15 years ago. But he runs a really sick agency, branding agency, where we build brands for artists. And I've like helped him here and there with it. But when he saw that I was kind of looking, considering other things, he was like, hey man, how about you come get involved in the agency again? So since August, I've been working with him and helping bring on clients and building artist brands. And I was like, man, I was just like, I forgot how much fun I have working with artists, and also just getting more on the business side of it too. Like, we do branding, we do marketing. And I'm like, this shit is fun, man. This is like, I miss doing this stuff. This is where I came from.
Does it allow you to still practice like some of your coaching, like still have those deep conversations with the people that you're working with through Colt?
100%. What we're working on right now, or what we're doing and creating, is actually bringing my coaching into the agency. So when people sign up, they sign up for a package, and we're building their brand. What we're also offering is life coaching with that too.
That's
so I actually
amazing.
It's
so
really
cool.
cool. Like it just all made sense. I was like, yeah, man, why am I not doing this thing that I really, it makes so much sense. There's so much synergy right now. And it's really cool to see those things coming together, which I think there's just a great opportunity for us to do something very differently that like, you don't have a lot of other marketing agencies that are like, yeah, we're going to help you like
literally
build your brand and build your audience. But like, we're also going to help you develop an indestructible mindset, which is probably one of the most important things to being successful. Right. So we're onto something really cool. And I literally just yesterday had my first session with one of our, he's not like my coaching client, but he's a client of the agency. And I just had, like a, life coaching mindset call with him yesterday, and it was really cool. So
very cool.
I'm excited for where all that's going.
I wanted to ask too, now that we're talking about combining the two different worlds and, finding a niche almost, how important is that in the coaching world to find a niche to kind of attach your, like who your client, where you source your clientele from?
Yeah, this is the $1 million question, right? Because all the business coaches and the business advice say that you need to niche down, and it works, right? And there's a lot of other people that don't
do that, yeah,
and it works, right? So everyone thinks they have the right way to do things. This is the way. There's no one way, especially when it comes to being an artist, being an entrepreneur. There are an infinite amount of paths. And, it's the same thing with like a lot of people are going to say, hey, as an artist, you should just stick to one genre and like really stay in your lane and do this one thing. And there's artists that come out there and they're like, fuck that. I'm going to make 7 genres and do whatever I want and be an artist. And it works for them. Yeah. So no one path. There is no one path, right? It's like you get to figure out what that is. It might mean niching down. It might mean staying more open. You just got to figure out kind of what works for you.
Yeah. Great answer to that question.
I personally am leaning into the niching down. Where I'm just like, I'm going to call myself an artist coach. I'm going to specifically market myself towards artists. I'm going to have a process that, because like talking to, hundreds of artists, thousands of artists over the time, I'm like, there's a very, very, very common set of just like a handful of problems that everybody struggles with. Right. Yeah. So if I can just like master helping people get to the other side of those problems, then, I just become a bit more of like a sniper rifle rather than just like a machine gun that's just hitting anything and everything. So, yeah.
Taking it back to the hero's journey, I'll just kind of give a brief explanation for the people listening. Is a common template of stories that involve a hero who goes on an adventure, is victorious in a decisive crisis, and comes home changed or transformed. I guess my question to follow that up is, throughout this experience, what has transformed inside of you for the better? What has it really shown you?
Ooh, man. Like as far as this, just like this last year,
like coming back into
yeah. Well, it's cool. It's like, that's a big part of the hero's journey is it's like the hero starts in his normal familiar world. There's some sort of call to adventure and he leaves his home or her home and goes on the adventure, goes through all these trials. And then there's this sort of moment of like slaying the dragon, whatever that may be. And all of this is a metaphor. All of this, we make all these movies about it. The reason we connect with all of these movies and these stories is because on a deep, deep level of our subconscious and our psyche, this is like wired into being human, right? It's like we've come to this earth to go on this adventure and all of it. And so there's also this, the moment of conquering slaying the dragon. I think for me, slaying the dragon was, learning how to be okay, or learning how to be not okay, learning how to surrender. Because there was this moment where I just fully let go. I just said, you know what, I'm not okay. And the minute I did that, I was liberated. I was free.
Awesome.
And that was the thing that held the most power over me, was this attachment to, I have to be okay. I have to hold on. And so that was my dragon that I got to slay. And, again, part of the hero's journey is that they call it the boon. The boon is like the gold, there's like in Lord of the Rings, there's all this gold in the dragon's lair, right? And so it's being able to get the gold, and it's not for you to keep. That's the big thing, is whatever that lesson is, whatever the boon, the reward isn't for you. It's for you to bring back to your community. It's for you to bring back to the village, right? At the end of the movie, the last 5 minutes is always the hero coming home, right? And so I had to I think, one way of looking at it would be I had to leave maybe the artist world and go on my own journey and discover, slay my dragon and discover my gold, or the gold, the lesson that I get to bring back, which is just it's a lot of energy. It's a lot of inspiration. It's a lot of dedication to service. It's also just this very powerful lesson that it's okay to not be okay. And if I can hold space and if I can invite people to just step over that line in the same way that I did, and be someone that can hold space to allow people to do that and to realize that it's okay. You are going to be okay. You will survive. You will still be held. You will still be loved. If that might be the gift that I bring back,
I wanted to touch on one last thing before we get out of here, because you mentioned it before we got into the interview, but trusting yourself versus listening to others. Throughout this process, without naming any names, obviously, who were some of the people that you were listening to during this time, and what were they encouraging you to do? What did you mean by that?
This is an interesting one, because there's a lot of voices, right? There are a lot of voices in our lives. There's a lot of voices just around us, and life can become very noisy sometimes. And, I think we have to really learn how to trust ourselves and listen to our own internal guidance. Sometimes those voices are right, and they're very much like in service of us. Like I have what I call my mental health team, which was during this year, it was really like kind of like around this summer when I was just like in my shit. Like I had my best friend, I had Caitlin, Freddie Lane. I had like, 3 other friends that were just like, they were my people, and they just had my back. And so when I got really lost, they were there to just remind me, like, dude, like, remember who you are. We know who you are. And we're here to be a mirror to remind you of that, because you seem to be really forgetting like who you really are. And so, those are the kind of people you want to have, and you do want to listen to.
Yeah.
And at the same time, even listening to them though, I ultimately had to get back in touch with that part of myself by myself. They couldn't get me that.
Yeah.
They could say nice things, right?
You got to do the work.
I had to do the work, right? And I ultimately had to get back to the point where my voice was saying that, right? Not theirs, not anybody else's. Yeah. And that's a little different though too, because on the other hand of it is, people are always going to have advice, and I think more so on like a lot of the business side, a lot of the career side of like, oh, you should niche down, you should build your business this way, you should coach this way, you should make this kind of music, you should do these things as an artist on the path. And it's like, even myself, it's like I put out advice all the time. It's like, take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah,
you gotta have a deep connection to your own internal voice and your own internal GPS guidance system, which I think is where we have to learn how to drop into our heart and our intuition. Our mind is a very powerful computer that's there to help us and to calculate. And we also have this ego that's in there, and it also really wants to protect us, and it wants to keep us safe. So as powerful as that machine is, we have to be careful not to only live there, because we also have this deeper inherent wisdom inside of us, which lives more that's more like in our heart. It's in our soul. It's in our gut. That's our intuition. So that is a lot of the work that I do with people as well. Sometimes I'll just start off our sessions. I'm like, hey man, we're going to just breathe and we're going to meditate. And I'll just like get them to drop in and be like, yo, what's your heart saying? Don't tell me what's on your mind. Tell me what's on your heart. Yeah. And if you can get quiet enough to listen to that, that's where a lot of the answers are.
That's awesome, man. Well, I thank you so much for being on the show today. We'll wrap up here. Before we do, though, what are some of your goals for 2023? What are you looking forward to? I know that you got a lot going on with Colt. You got a lot going on with, new clients and stuff. What are some of your goals for this year?
Yeah, well, I'll throw another plug here again at the end. We actually, with Colt, we're doing something really cool. We have our service that we provide for artists is usually a 3-month long brand building thing. It's very, very in depth. It's also, got a, decent price tag attached to it as well. We wanted to figure out how can we provide the same service at a much lower rate for people. And so we're putting on a workshop in Los Angeles, February 25th, 24th, 25th, and 26th. So 3-day workshop where we're going to be walking people through our whole process of how we build brands, but it's going to be like 10 hours a day, 3 days in a row. We're going to have a photo shoot. We're going to design logos. We're going to build brands from the ground up. So I'm really pumped. I'm excited just to get back to LA.
Yeah.
I haven't been to LA in a while. So for any artists out there that are interested in, working with our team to build their brands, that's going to be super fun. I'm just excited for, I think this goal of like bringing the coaching into the agency at Colt as well.
Yeah, that's
a
super cool.
Really
I'm
exciting.
So excited for you that you're able to combine those two worlds. Yeah.
And then to be honest, man, talking about like filling up your own cup, I've been realizing that's so important for me. One of my goals is I need to get out at least once a month and go hit the dance floor. I need to go like shake my ass and have fun, and shout out to the Concourse Project here in Austin. That's usually where I go do it. They got sick DJs coming through all the time. And then also I'm going to start learning how to DJ.
Oh, sweet.
Myself.
I'm working on that myself as well. Yeah.
I don't really want to learn how to produce. Like producing is, it's a whole thing. And I know how to produce a little bit. I'm more like, I want to just kind of jam on the guitar. That is another thing. I want to play guitar a bit more, but I do want to learn how to DJ. I want to just play like some after hours, parties. I want to play some pool parties, just be able to throw down. I've done it a little bit, but I have a guy here named Kai Castro. Shout out Brandon. He's a new friend I just made here in Austin. We're gonna start doing DJ lessons next weekend.
Sweet. So I started doing DJ lessons with my roommate, who's also a producer, and he has his own artist project. We've been starting to do that. We've been busy the last couple of weeks, but I'm trying to learn as well. Dude. Yeah,
I love that. We're gonna have to do a back-to-back set sometime.
Yes, that'd be sick. Awesome. Before we get out of here, do you have any questions for me?
Yeah. What was your one biggest takeaway or insight or transformation from when we were working together, when you were one of my life coaching clients?
There's a lot, man. There's a lot that I still have put into practice today. Actually, it's kind of funny. I'll start with this. One is I became more of a reader. I've read a lot more books, and I've dove into that world a lot more. The other thing is I mentioned the filling up your own cup. That's still something that I'm working on. And it's something that I've gotten a lot better at. And 3 is just enjoying the process. Really, truly enjoying the process. Because I used to get so caught up in analytics, and like, I'm like, I had to like humble myself and be like, dude, it's like, especially it was like in my first year, and I was like, dude, this is your first year. Like, it's going to take time. And I was why am I really doing this? And some self-discovery. And I was like, am I doing this because I just want to be famous someday? Not really. Yeah. Am I doing this because I want to actually serve people? And do I actually enjoy content creation? That's the real reason. So focus on that.
Yeah. And I really, really want to take this moment to acknowledge you and just say how, stoked I am and how proud of you I am to see what you've created, because the whole idea for this podcast started when we were coaching.
Yeah.
And we were having a call one day, and you were just like, oh, I have this sort of idea, this little, seed of an idea, this little vision. And, you went out there and you did it, right? Like you just like started putting in what's the first step to take? And you took that step and you put it into action. And then just to see how you've kept up with it, how you're coming on almost 100 episodes now. It's so freaking cool, man. And I'm just
Thank you for giving me the push.
Yeah, man. I love it, dude. It's honored. It's truly an honor to have been just like in your corner, to be a part of your process. And, like I said, it's so cool that we're also still, we're still obviously it's like such good friends now. And as I always say, like I'm always going to be in your corner, so.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Cheers to that.
Yeah. Where can the listeners find you and get in touch with you and maybe find out more information about your coaching services?
Yeah, Instagram is really the best way.
Okay.
Just find me on Instagram, just at Nik Cherwink. I'm trying to post, content at least a couple times a week, and just add a lot of value there. And then, if anybody ever wants to just hop on a call and hear a bit more about what that's like, just reach out on Instagram, or I've got my link in my bio as well. Sweet. So that's the best place.
And then I'll drop the link to, if there's a link to that event in LA, I'll drop that in the first link in the description too, to send that over to me.
Cool.
Final questions before we get out of here. I've now incorporated and asked this question at the end of every interview. If there's one piece of advice you can tell yourself when you first become a life or artist coach, what would that be?
Trust yourself.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. Just to trust myself. Because to be honest, like I've always known all the answers. I've always had that, right? Again, back to that, like trusting yourself, trusting your intuition. I think there have been some moments where I got caught up listening to other people of, this is how you should build your business, or this is how you should coach, or this is, what this looks like. And I've tried those things out, and some of them have worked, and I've followed them sometimes, but I'm just like, come back to yourself, dude.
Yeah.
Like, you already know. All of us, we already know deep down, you have all the answers. And so I would just remind myself of that, to trust myself a bit more.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, man.
Thank you, bro.